My name is Claire. I'm 34 years old, and I've been married to Daniel for almost 11 years. 11 years. Saying it out loud feels heavier than it should, like the weight of every year sits quietly on my chest, whispering reminders of who I used to be and who I am now. I'm not the kind of woman who thought she'd ever be sitting here, confessing something like this. I was the good girl, the dependable one, the friend who always gave advice about loyalty and commitment like I had some secret recipe for forever. And for a long time, I believed I did. When Daniel and I first met, I felt safe with him in a way I hadn't with anyone before. He was steady, grounded, and so certain about us when I was used to men who treated love like a game of chance. With him, there was no guessing. He told me I was beautiful every single morning, even when I had mascara smudged under my eyes or my hair was a wild mess. We used to stay up until 2 in the morning talking about nothing and everything, our dreams, our plans, the names we'd give our future kids. He kissed me like he meant it, like he needed it, like I was the only thing keeping him alive. Back then, even the smallest touches set my heart racing. His hand on my lower back when we crossed the street. The way he'd tuck a strand of hair behind my ear before kissing me in the car, heat blooming low in my belly with just that one motion. I used to crave him in ways I didn't know how to put into words. But life has a way of dulling the edges. Somewhere between careers and bills and trying to be responsible adults, things shifted. It wasn't sudden. It was slow, so slow I didn't notice until it was too late. He still kisses me goodbye before work, but it's quick now. Automatic. His lips brush mine like a checkbox on a to-do list rather than a promise. Sometimes he hugs me when he gets home, but his arms feel heavier than they used to, like the hug is about ending the day, not about me. And me? I've changed too. I don't throw my arms around him when he walks in the door like I used to. I don't whisper stupid little jokes in his ear while we cook dinner together. I don't reach for him in the dark as often. It's not that I don't want to. It's that somewhere along the line, I stopped feeling like he wanted me to. We've become polite. That's the only way I can describe it. Polite in our affection. Polite in our arguments. Even in bed, there's this unspoken tension, like we're performing a role we both forgot the lines to. The other night, he kissed me while we were watching a movie on the couch. It should have been sweet. I should have melted into him like I used to. Instead, I froze for half a second because the kiss felt off. Not bad, just different. Like he was trying, and I was pretending not to notice. We ended up cuddling under the blanket, but even that felt wrong, his arm heavy over my shoulder, his breathing steady and far away, my mind drifting somewhere else entirely. I keep thinking about when it changed, when we changed. And I know exactly when it was. It was a Sunday afternoon 2 years ago. We were folding laundry in the bedroom, sunlight pouring in through the blinds, dust floating in the air like tiny galaxies. He handed me a stack of shirts, smiled, and said, "We should do something fun soon." Fun. The word hit me in the chest because it sounded foreign coming from him. Like fun wasn't something we did anymore. Like we didn't even know what that meant together. That was the moment. The exact second I realized something between us had slipped away, and neither of us knew how to get it back. His name was Evan. I met him on a rainy Tuesday morning in the break room at work, of all places. I remember because I was standing there, staring at the coffee machine like it had personally wronged me, when he walked in and said, "You look like you need this more than anyone." He handed me the mug before I could answer, his smile crooked in this way that made it impossible not to smile back. At first, he was just a friend. We talked about work deadlines, the latest binge-worthy shows, stupid little things like whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Nothing dangerous. Nothing heavy. He had this lightness about him that made it easy to breathe when I didn't even realize I'd been holding my breath for months. Daniel and I, we had fallen into this rhythm at home. Work, dinner, chores, TV, bed. Repeat. It wasn't bad. It was fine. And maybe that was the problem. Everything was fine. Stable. Predictable. But Evan? He made me laugh. Really laugh, the way I hadn't in so long that the sound startled me the first time it came out of my mouth. He'd drop by my desk just to share some ridiculous meme or tease me about my terrible taste in music. He noticed things, like when I got a haircut or wore a new shade of lipstick. Daniel used to notice too. One night, I got home late after staying to finish a project with Evan. When I walked in, Daniel was on the couch, the TV flickering across his face. He looked up, smiled, and said, "Hey, you eat yet?" Not "where were you," or "I missed you." Just "did you eat?" And the scary thing? I didn't even expect more anymore. The next day at work, Evan leaned against my desk, arms crossed, grinning like he had a secret. "You always look so serious," he teased. "Bet you were one of those straight-A students." I rolled my eyes. "And you weren't?" He laughed, low and warm, and for a second I forgot what we were even talking about. It wasn't like I planned for anything to happen. God, I swear I didn't. I loved my husband. I still do, in this complicated, tangled way that doesn't fit into neat little boxes. But there was this hunger in me I didn't even recognize until someone else saw it too. The first time Evan touched me, it wasn't even romantic. We were standing too close while looking at his computer screen, and his hand brushed mine on the desk. That's it. Just a touch. But my pulse jumped like I'd been caught doing something I shouldn't. At home that night, Daniel kissed me in the kitchen while I was washing dishes. It should have been sweet. It used to be sweet. But all I felt was guilt twisting low in my stomach because my mind kept wandering somewhere it shouldn't. The thing is, Evan didn't make me feel young again. He made me feel seen. Like the parts of me that had gone quiet in my marriage were suddenly wide awake and demanding attention. We started having lunch together. Just lunch. But then there were texts after work. Jokes. Memes. Random thoughts in the middle of the night. And one evening, after everyone else had left the office, he asked if I wanted to grab a drink. I should have said no. I wanted to say no. But instead, I nodded. Because somewhere deep down, I knew what I was really saying yes to wasn't the drink. It was the part of me that had been quietly starving for years. The bar was small and dimly lit, the kind of place where no one really notices anyone else. We sat in a corner booth, drinks between us, shoulders brushing when we leaned in to talk. I told myself it was harmless, just two coworkers unwinding after a long week. But it wasn't harmless. I knew that. Because I couldn't stop noticing the way Evan looked at me when I laughed, like he was memorizing the shape of my mouth. I couldn't stop noticing how my body leaned toward him without me even thinking about it. Somewhere between the second drink and the third, he told me I deserved to be happy. Simple words. Dangerous words. "Claire," he said softly, his voice low enough that I had to lean closer to hear. "Do you even realize how amazing you are?" No one had asked me that in years. Daniel used to, in his own way, telling me I was beautiful, leaving me little notes in my lunchbox back when things were good. But lately? Lately he was tired. We both were. Our words had become practical, not romantic. And hearing someone say it again, it cracked something open in me I didn't even know was still breakable. When we left the bar, the night air was cool, the streets quiet. He walked me to my car, hands shoved in his pockets like he didn't want to spook me. I should have just said goodbye. I should have waved, smiled, and driven home to my husband like nothing had changed. But then he touched my arm. Just lightly, fingers brushing my sleeve as I turned toward him. It was such a small thing. A tiny, almost innocent thing. And it set my whole body on fire. "Good night, Claire," he murmured. I heard myself say good night back, my voice catching on the edges of the word. And then, for a second that lasted forever, we just stood there, looking at each other like we were both waiting for permission we knew we shouldn't give. When I finally drove home, my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Daniel was asleep when I got in. The house was dark except for the glow of the TV he'd left on, the blankets tangled around him on the couch. I stood there for a moment, watching him sleep, feeling this wave of guilt crash over me so hard it almost knocked me over. Because I loved him. I did. But loving someone doesn't mean you can't also feel invisible in your own life. The next day at work, I told myself I needed space from Evan. That this had gone far enough. But then there he was again, leaning against my desk with that easy smile, handing me a coffee like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You okay?" he asked, concern flickering in his eyes. And before I could stop myself, I told him the truth. "No," I whispered. That was the moment it changed. Not the drink. Not the touch. Not even the way he looked at me like he already knew what I was going to say. It was the way he listened. Really listened. He didn't try to fix me. He didn't tell me I was overreacting or that marriage was hard for everyone. He just let me talk about how Daniel and I barely touched anymore, how I felt like a ghost in my own house, how I missed feeling wanted. And when I finally stopped, cheeks hot with embarrassment, he reached across the table and covered my hand with his. It wasn't sexual. Not yet. But it was intimate in a way I hadn't felt in years. And that was the moment I knew we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross. It happened on a Wednesday. I remember because Wednesdays were always the most ordinary days. No meetings. No deadlines. Just the long, gray stretch between Monday's chaos and Friday's anticipation. Evan asked if I wanted to grab lunch outside the office. He chose a quiet cafe on the edge of town, the kind of place where no one knew us. We sat in the corner, laughing about something stupid. God, it was always so easy with him, and somewhere between the last sip of coffee and standing up to leave, his hand slipped into mine. I didn't pull away. We walked to his car like that, palms pressed together, hearts pounding like we were teenagers sneaking around behind the gym. And when he opened the door for me, I didn't get in right away. I just stood there, staring at him, my throat tight, my pulse roaring in my ears. He kissed me. Soft at first, hesitant, like he was giving me time to change my mind. I didn't. I let him kiss me again, deeper this time, and the world spun out beneath my feet. It wasn't just the heat of it, it was the way I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. Like someone had found the switch to a part of me I thought was broken forever. But the second it ended, the guilt came crashing in. I went home that night to Daniel, and everything felt wrong. The air felt wrong. The walls felt wrong. He hugged me when I walked in, arms warm and familiar, but all I felt was the weight of what I'd done pressing down on my chest. He kissed my cheek in the kitchen while I was chopping vegetables for dinner. I almost dropped the knife because I couldn't stand how normal it all felt when nothing was normal anymore. Over the next few weeks, Evan and I saw each other more. Lunches turned into walks. Walks turned into drinks. Drinks turned into nights where we couldn't keep our hands off each other in the dark parking lot behind his apartment. It wasn't about love. Not then. It was about hunger. About feeling wanted. About touching someone and being touched back with urgency instead of routine. But at home, Daniel started noticing things. The way I flinched when he touched me unexpectedly. The late nights I explained away with work projects. The way I smiled at my phone sometimes, like the glow of the screen was holding a secret I couldn't let slip. One evening, I walked in the door to find him sitting at the kitchen table, his phone in his hand. My phone. "Who's Evan?" he asked, his voice low, careful. Too careful. My stomach dropped. "Just someone from work," I said, the lie scraping my throat raw on the way out. His eyes held mine for a long time before he slid the phone across the table toward me. "You're not happy, are you?" he asked. Not angry. Not accusatory. Just quiet. And that broke me more than yelling ever could have. Because he wasn't wrong. I sank into the chair across from him, my hands shaking, the words spilling out before I could stop them. I don't know how we got here, I whispered. I love you, Daniel. I do. But somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling like you saw me. Like we saw each other. He didn't say anything for the longest time. Just sat there, his jaw tight, eyes wet like he was holding back everything he wanted to scream. Finally, he asked, "Is it over?" And the worst part was, I didn't know the answer. I didn't sleep that night. Daniel had gone upstairs after our conversation, shutting the bedroom door with a quiet finality that felt worse than slamming it. I stayed on the couch, staring at the ceiling while the house creaked around me. Every memory of us replayed in my head, our wedding day, the apartment we first rented with the leaky pipes, the way he used to tuck my hair behind my ear before kissing me. All the versions of us that led here, to this chasm I couldn't see a way across. In the morning, he didn't ask about Evan again. He made coffee like he always did. Packed his lunch. Kissed my cheek before heading to work. But the kiss felt like a question. I couldn't breathe under the weight of it anymore. That evening, I sat him down in the living room. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I need to tell you the truth, I said, my voice breaking halfway through. He didn't move. Didn't say anything. Just waited. So I told him. About the lunches. The texts. The drinks. The kiss in the parking lot that started everything. I told him I hadn't planned it, that I didn't even recognize myself anymore, that somewhere in all the loneliness and silence between us, I'd let someone else fill the space where he used to be. And the whole time, he just sat there, his face unreadable, like if he didn't move, he wouldn't shatter. When I finally stopped talking, the quiet was deafening. Was it worth it? He asked at last, his voice low, even.